Hi there, you very special person, and welcome to a very special episode, perhaps the episode I was looking forward to most when thinking to make a podcast, and this is the episode dedicated to a visit to Super Potato in Akihabara. Probably the most famous game store, this individual game store in the world. This is the flagship for this store, which for some reason is kind of synonymous with Akihabara, and which foreign people have come to see as some sort of mecca when visiting Akihabara to visit Super Potato. So, I did make some videos before on this, and one of them I'm sure I will link in any kind of description here or on YouTube, to a warning I made to warn people coming to Japan to buy games or wanting to go to Akihabara for whatever reason to be very careful of this store. Many people will assume they can find once-in-a-lifetime deals/finds here, and yeah, it's not quite the case. Anyway, please check that out, but in the meantime, here is describing my visit to the store, which ironically I did find something to purchase on this day, which has already actually been mentioned on the YouTube channel as well. So, Super Potato in Akihabara, it is, it occupies 3 floors of a narrow, kind of semi-high-rise building on floors 3, 4, and 5. Floor 5, very worth a visit. It's very interesting. It is kind of an old-style arcade, a small version of it. There are probably only about 15 machines there, but these very old arcade games you can play, and kind of Japanese-style candies are for sale there, very similar to how it would look back in the Showa era, perhaps, almost 40 years ago. And yeah, it's well worth seeing, and it's for a tourist especially, I would recommend going there once. There is a better retro game arcade in the top floor of a Gigo, formerly Sega arcade in Akihabara, but still definitely worth a visit here to check things out. On the 3rd and 4th floors, though, there are things for sale that are... It's separated by the kind of product. So on the 4th floor, it has PlayStation products, and it has, let's see, what else? 3DO, MSX, a Neo Geo CD, Neo Geo cartridge, and game soundtracks, and little oddities, little bits of memorabilia from games. And it has PC Engine. It also has, though, some things not for sale which are of interest, that are in the display cases that you can just look at. But here you can also find kind of their own junk section. Now, their junk is pricier than junk at other stores, but it does have indeed sometimes things that might be fun to buy or to try out. Example is PlayStation 2 of a weird aquamarine color, missing about half the top panel that's just been broken off. You can see the circuit board inside, although the disk drive is uncovered, and well, it might just work. So if you want to spend 1,000 yen for this kind of thing, well, they have it. Anyway, and then the 3rd floor has, let's see, Dreamcast, Nintendo console things, Sega console things, and kind of like, not junk, but outlet stuff, and indeed on this day I did purchase an outlet product. So let's get into the products that were seen on the day. This is June 3rd, 2024. First thing I noticed was a boxed Intellivision console, which I recently found at a store I mentioned before, one of the best stores, not most famous, but best stores for retro stuff in Japan. There, the Intellivision was in box with everything and in pretty good condition for 20,000 yen. Here, at the Super Potato, with a rough box and no TV connection switch box in the package, 65,780 yen. Wow. That's way too pricey. Next to it, complete in box, however, with lots of damage on the box and lots of damage on the manual, an Atari Lynx console, just on its own, no game, no accessory, well, whatever came in the box originally, 58,080 yen. Wow. At one of my favorite shops in Yamanashi Prefecture, you can get the Lynx, no box, but you can also get the AC adapter with it, which is huge, because that's very hard to find and much more expensive to find than you might think these days in Japan. There it was only 25,000 yen. So, yeah, super potato, you know. If you gotta have it there, then there you go. Then, unbelievably, Atari Jaguar. Made in the USA, I know, but the full in-box Atari Jaguar, 107,800 yen. The most expensive Jaguar I've ever seen in the world. Wow. You know, they had two of them for the same price. But I remember when I was at the store some years ago, maybe 5 years ago, they did have the same thing there. It might have been the same one, as the prices are put on these like little plastic wrap things that they wrap around the boxes anyway. That can be replaced easily. At that time, it was less than 50,000 yen. So yeah. Also of note was the AI assistant figure. I have shown off mine, which is of Nakoruru from Samurai Spirits. They had one that was, and I bought mine new in box for 2,000 yen. Here, the Ukyo figure, which is no rarer, was new in box for 16,928 yen. And to note, the actual AI thing inside the smart speaker, the smart portion of the smart speaker, that in fact no longer works because it does not, whatever the service it uses, it did lose its license. Sorry about that. But some things I saw there that were not necessarily poorly priced were several Dreamcast new games. So this is, for example, they had Fade to Black, the flashback sequel, and other recently made Dreamcast games which are compatible with the Dreamcast, of course not licensed, but they're between 5,000 and 8,000 yen, which is about what they're going for anyway. In the open market. For the not the Mega Drive, but actually the Genesis, an import game, which I would have liked to have actually if it were not super expensive, was the original Star Control for the Sega Genesis. 6,000 yen. It is boxed, but yeah, much pricier than the Japanese version. Then something which is, I would actually say, is not the worst price. A boxed, although the box has really bad damage on it, the memory unit from Panasonic, the FZ-EM256, for the 3DO interactive multiplayer. I have shown off before on the YouTube channel, with my first 3DO video, the disc that comes with this that lets you access all the memory on the machine, including the attached memory unit. And that disc itself is one of the rarest officially released discs ever made, and it usually should come packed in only with this memory unit. And there's no guarantee that this memory unit that I see here had that disc inside, because it said it was unchecked. Perhaps it did not. Perhaps, in fact, it did not have that memory unit. I don't even know if anyone has dumped the ISO of the disc online to make it even usable, if that were to be the case. Also of note, a few interesting Game & Watches. The old Nintendo portable things. First of note, the Game & Watch of Mickey Mouse. A lot of damage on the box and on the manual. 294,800 yen. That's over $2,000 even now in the poor exchange rate. The Legend of Zelda, just a bit under that at 250,800 yen. And if that is too rich for your taste, well, they also had unboxed, just the units only, with some scratches of Mario's Bombs. What's this? What do they call this? Mario's Bombs Away. Some sort of, old LCD game, of course, from the Game & Watch series. I haven't seen this one before, so it's a bit rarer, but it was indeed 65,780 yen. Also, the CDX, that, it was like the, kind of, how do I put it, like it's the Sega CD and Genesis in one, but not the Wonder Eye or the X-Eye or whatever. That was untested and no return, so I would think not working, for 49,000 yen. There was like a little, you know those little tabletops? Tabletop arcade things from way back when? So Nintendo made some Game & Watches that were in that format as well. A bit bigger, and you put it on the table, and they take C batteries. But Mario's Cement Factory, that tabletop Game & Watch, for 173,800 yen. And what I thought was just crazy when I went downstairs, only the console itself, no controller, nothing. Wait, no, I'm sorry, they did come with a controller. Console, controller, cables, and power adapter only. Nintendo 64s, they look like they're in good condition, but each one they had at slightly different prices. I don't know why. Between 13,420 yen and 15,180 yen, they look nice enough, but you can get complete in-box, perfectly usable Nintendo 64 consoles basically at any other used store in Japan for less than 10,000 yen, so a bit pricey. They did have Sega Mega Adapters, which is the master converter. You play Master System games on your Genesis or Mega Drive or whatever. This is, of course, the Japanese version. They were being sold without any accessories or box for 16,280 yen, which is more than twice the cost of just getting the third-party ones that are for sale right now. Next, a complete, including the Obi strip of KO's Flying Squadron for the Sega Saturn, was being sold for 32,780 yen, but it's expensive everywhere. But again, this is probably twice the price that I've seen it before, although without the Obi strip in the other stores where I've seen it. So if that more than 10,000 yen for an Obi strip is important for you, there you go. But some things are a bit cheaper there. For example, a very nice version, a very nice condition of Choo Choo Rocket for Dreamcast, 858 yen. And if I didn't know that you can get this in the junk section at most stores that should be perfectly playable for 100 yen, I would think that's a pretty good deal because it's a great game. And then there was, what was it? I think the last thing I found there was something that I actually bought. The Retrobit Generations 2 mini console, which has many ROMs on it. It's kind of one of those re-released consoles, like the Famicom or the NES Mini Classic or whatever. But this version, it had just licensed games. It wasn't made by a major manufacturer, but licensed games from Capcom, Athena, Coconuts Japan, and Woodplace. I did a full live video on this on the YouTube channel. I guess I should probably link to that as well. And yeah, it was for sale everywhere. I've seen it all over the country, but they made way too many of them and they didn't sell well. So it's been everywhere around the country, new in box for 3,000 yen. Here, though, they had quite a supply for 2,000 yen with tax 2178. So I did break down and I finally bought it as I was so curious about it. And I did, in fact, get it at the Super Potato, where you should expect the highest prices. But for this, it was indeed the lowest price. So, as I've mentioned before several times on my channel, please do visit Super Potato in Akihabara. It is famous for a reason. It has lots of interesting things to see. And they do have occasionally some things you can't find anywhere else. Now, if you're in Akihabara anyway, please make Super Potato your first stop. Then go shopping everywhere else. And just go back to pick up anything that you could not find elsewhere or cheaper elsewhere, if that makes sense. In fact, I would say if you're in Japan and you're doing a countrywide tour, if you come to Tokyo first day and you have a chance to visit there at the end of your trip, indeed, make it your first visit when you get to Tokyo and your last visit your last time you would go to buy a game or something before you go to a game shop before you leave the country, and only pick stuff up after you've seen everything that can be found elsewhere. But there you go. Super Potato in Akihabara as visited on June the 3rd of 2024. Thank you so much for listening, and again, check the links to find the other things that I had mentioned during this talk. Thank you so much, and a goodbye.